Welcome to Shaped by Faith with your host, Theresa Rowe. To find out more about Shaped by Faith and Theresa Rowe, please visit shapedbyfaith.com or visit the YouTube channel, Facebook, or Instagram. And now, here is Theresa Rowe.
Welcome to Shaped by Faith, where we shape our bodies and hearts for God's purposes. I'm your host, Theresa Rowe. My guest today is Angie Clayton. She has a deep passion for ministering to those who are grieving, and her writings beautifully reflect her storytelling. She brings a rich diversity of perspective. She has a blog called Framing the Days. And her book, and we're going to talk about that today, is called Peering into the Tunnel, an outsider's look into grief. It offers a compassionate and insightful exploration of loss, providing comfort and understanding to those navigating the complexities of grief. Welcome to Shaped by Faith, Angie.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, I'm so glad that God connected us. I love how he does that. And we can jump online and have a conversation. By the way, where are you? Where are you located?
My home city is Olathe, Kansas. It's a suburb of Kansas City.
Okay. You know, I used to live, about 3 hours when I lived in Nebraska. About three.
I grew up in Nebraska, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I worked in Omaha, Nebraska, almost 7 years.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Hastings.
Okay. All right. So you're a Nebraskan
Yeah.
girl. I'm in Kentucky. So,
Okay.
we're pretty far away from one another, but this is awesome. Again, how God can connect us. I would love for our listeners, and I myself would love to hear your backstory, before we get into your book. So why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Thanks. I would love to. Let's see. I was adopted, right? That's where my story starts, is that I was adopted when I was 3 weeks old by my parents, and born and raised in Hastings, Nebraska. Lived stable childhood. Lived in the same house my whole growing up years. My parents are still together now. They've been married for 63 years, I think now. And so a good solid upbringing that I had. And we lived outside of town. So yeah, I was kind of in the middle of a cornfield, which is how most people picture Nebraska. And that's really kind of true. But then I, shortly out of high school, I got married, and it was a foolish decision. It was about the same time that I just sort of walked away from the church. I had been raised in church. I would have told you all of that time before and during this time that I was going to heaven, that I believed in God. I believed in all the things about Jesus. And so I didn't ever turn my back on anything. I just sort of wandered away. There was no foundation to turn my back on. And so I got into this marriage. It was a bad deal. 2 kids, and 5 years later, I'm out of there, and I moved from a little tiny town in western Kansas, which is where I was living at the time, to Lawrence, Kansas, which is right near Kansas City. Also, it's the home of the Jayhawks, Rock Chalk, if anybody cares. And lived there with my 2 kids and single mommed it for a while. And then I met my current husband, Greg, and we got married in 1988. So we've been married for 36 years now. And he was able to adopt my kids about 6 months after we got married. And so that's just been such a huge blessing, such an amazing God story there when we weren't even paying any attention to God. It's cool to be able to look back and see those things. So that's kind of my younger backstory. I went back to school non-traditionally. I was maybe 32 when I went back to school, got my CPA, worked as a CPA for a while. We owned our own business for a little while, and then sold that and came home and did home businesses. So we just kind of did a whole bunch of stuff. We were searching for something to fill what turned out to be a God-sized hole in us.
Okay, so obviously then you wrote a book. Did that come years later, or has that been in the works? Were you thinking about it back then?
I wouldn't say it was like on a front burner for me ever until probably about 2016. So it was a pretty big time of ministry, and a lot of things happened during that time. But the book came out of a couple of things. First of all, we had our own grief experience that was really hard, and we didn't have very much support, and it was very painful. And I didn't really stick anything, stick it to anything like, oh, I should write a book about this. But I did file it away, like we do the really painful things, right? The painful seasons in our life. And then I got the opportunity to walk alongside a friend who'd lost two children. And that was when I began to really think there's things that people really need to know about how to help the people that are grieving. And we're bad at it. I mean, we're naturally bad at it. That's all. We mean well, we want to help, but sometimes we just say all the wrong things or do what shouldn't be done. And so anyway, I just learned so much, and a lot of it I learned because I did the wrong things, right? But I learned a lot about what is helpful and what is not helpful in general for grieving people.
Well, that's good, because we want to hear about that today, and I agree with you. I think people maybe are fearful about what to say, and they say the wrong thing, and they keep talking, and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I even do? Or some people may use, I don't want to go to the funeral home, it upsets me, da da da. But I don't know about you, Angie, but when my father passed away, I remember people that showed up. When my husband's mom passed away, I remember people who showed up.
Yep.
And I think just showing up is a way of, extending your sympathy to someone, and you don't even have to say anything. But I'm not the expert. So
no, that matters. You are 100% right. That matters. And I've heard that from a lot of people, that they remember the people that came for them.
Yeah.
Right. The people that not just the people that came for your dad or your mom or, whatever, but the people that love you that came.
Right. And people surprise you. The ones you think will be there aren't, and the ones that you never thought about are there. It's just amazing, incredible how that works out. So your title of your book, and I have your book right here, Peering into the Tunnel. Where did the title come from, and how does it reflect your personal journey with grief?
Well, my personal grief experience, it just is a dark place, and anybody who's had any kind of grief, let alone traumatic grief, knows that grief is just dark. And if you think about a tunnel, there's no light, and if it's long enough and you're far enough in, there's no light. You don't see light at the beginning or the end of the tunnel, and that's a rough place to be. And so what I found as I was walking alongside this one friend who turned out to be a very dear friend of mine, was that I couldn't take her place in that tunnel, but I could shine a light into it. I could choose to enter into it with her. And it's scary though. It's hard at first, and we fear it. And so you're exactly right about what you said, that people either say too much and they just keep talking, or sometimes they just won't say anything because they're afraid they're going to get it wrong.
I love the title, by the way. That makes so much sense. Thank you for explaining that. Was there a defining moment for you?
There was actually a very defining moment. My friend Elaine had lost her son Jesse to suicide, and when that happened, we were friendly. We weren't friends, but I wouldn't say. I mean, I'm kind of picky about who I put in that category. We were definitely friendly. We went to church together, and I went over and I helped with arranging meals and getting kids to practices, and just a lot of practical, hands-on, helpful kind of things. And then what did I do? I went home and went back to my life. Okay, that's what we tend to do, and those people are so important. Those of us who go in and put out fires, I call them firefighters. They can go in in a moment's notice and go in and just kind of take charge and make sure that all the needs are being met, all of that kind of thing. That is so very important. But what happens? What do firefighters do when the fire's out?
They leave.
They go home. That's right. And so then what? Then is when a builder can come in. And that's the person I'm talking to in the book. is the one who wants to be a builder but doesn't know how.
Angie, you were just talking about that pivotal moment that defined, that you were going to write this book. So why don't you go ahead and continue with that?
Well, what happened is actually very, very sad, and that is that Elaine's daughter Emily took her own life a number of years later.
Oh,
And I don't remember how or why, but Elaine called me and told me that Emily had died. And I said, I am on my way. And I prayed all the way over there. I'm like, Lord, what am I doing? I don't know what to do with this, about this. I don't know how to do this. And he just calmed my fears. And I just had this, I don't hear audible voices very often, but I did just have this sense of just don't worry. I'll give you words if you even need words. So when I got over there, what I found was my friend Elaine laying face down on the floor upstairs. And there was a knot of women standing like off to the side from her, just chatting. And no one was with her. She's just prone on the floor, right? Sobbing. And so I just marched up the stairs and I picked her up and I took her to bed and I crawled in the bed with her. And I almost can't tell it's not crying still after all these years, but I just got in bed with her and cried and stayed. And I think that is probably the best description of what a builder is. It's the one who's willing to come in and stay. Is it easy? No. Is it worth it? Yeah, it is.
that is so
Yes.
good. Okay, let's keep talking about that. How can we support someone who's grieving? And there's people that are still grieving from something that happened 15 years ago, and you mentioned suicide, and I cannot imagine the pain that that causes to a person. And there's friends that I know that has happened in their family, and that you can see it,
Yeah.
still to this day.
Right.
So what can we do as builders, like you put it?
Yeah. Well, number one is thing we have to remember is that their grief is their grief. It's not ours. And it's not ours to judge. It's not ours to fix or change, or anything else, because that is a really personal journey that I know that many of them probably wish they could have someone join them on completely, but it's just not possible. And so so for some people it's a very long extended process, and some people it never ends. I mean, let's just be honest. It just, how do you get over some things? You just don't get over. You don't ever move on from things like that. You move forward.
Yes.
You learn to move forward, but you don't move on, because moving on implies a leaving behind of that person that you loved, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that that's the most important thing. Here's another really practical thing. Say their name. Say the name of the person, of the loved one, of the person who died. I have talked to so many people that say that matters to them. That matters to them, because people are afraid, oh, I don't want to upset her. I don't want to say her name. It might make her feel sad or whatever. No, it feels honoring to them when you are willing to speak their name. And here's an even better one. If you have a story about that person that maybe the mama doesn't know, tell them. Okay, yeah, maybe there will be a little sadness because of it, but they want that, because you know what? They have all the memories they're ever going to get right now. If you've got another one to give them, that is gold, and they would love it. So don't be afraid to do that. And then just from a more practical standpoint, I think this is maybe my best one, and that is, we all do this. We say, if there is anything I can do to help you, you just let me know. I'll be there. I'll do anything. And do we mean that when we say it? Yeah, we do. Absolutely, we mean it. Okay, but if I'm in deep grief, and you say to me, if you need anything, give me a call. I promise I'll help. Am I going to call you?
Probably not.
I'm not, because I just can't.
Yeah.
Okay, so people that are in that level of grief don't even know what they need. And so this is my method, okay, is that I will call and say, I'm going to bring you, not even, do you want me to bring you a meal? I'm much more specific than that. I will call and say, I'm going to bring you a meal this week. Is Wednesday or Thursday better? Okay, that's a decision they can make.
That's good.
But if you just ask them, when would be a good time for me to come help you? They can't.
That is so correct. I've experienced that. And you do mean well, but when you are experiencing grief, sometimes you just don't want to talk.
Right. That's right.
And if someone shows up and they bring something and they're just there, their presence is there, that's meaningful.
Yeah, it really is. And you know what? Our tears matter also. So there may not be any words. There might be a lot of tears and no words. And sitting in silence can be uncomfortable, but you can get used to it. I mean, anybody can get used to that if you are willing to just sit in the discomfort for a little while.
That's right.
Realizing why you're doing it. It's a great time to pray if that's what's happening.
I love that you prayed on the way to your friend's house. I think that's what we're supposed to do. Very first thing is pray, Lord, what do you want me to do in this situation? Do you want me to speak? Please give me your words. I don't know what to say. It's just like when you pray with someone, Lord, help me. I don't even know the words, but you do. And it's
Yes.
just that trust in him that he's going to come through, because he always does.
Yes.
Angie, it sounds like your faith has deepened through the years. How has your faith played a role in you helping others with grief and navigating loss?
I have had to really learn how to set boundaries. And that might sound like a weird place to start when you're asking me about how my faith has played a role. But if I don't take care of myself in terms of not going on overload, I can walk alongside you in your pain, but I can't take on your pain. That's not for me to do. So I have to be careful not to do that. And that's something God showed me pretty early on, was that I can't do it all. I don't have to do it all. It's not my job to even try. That's his.
Wow.
And I am totally unqualified for every single second of it. And so that's where faith had to come in, because I was hopeless. Who knows how to handle something like that? Not very many people, I don't think.
No, absolutely not. And Angie, at the funeral home, it's difficult for everyone. Difficult for the family, difficult for those visiting, because you want to say the right words, you want to do the right things, and you're in line, you're waiting, and I've struggled with that before, but it always boils down to, Lord, what do you want me to say? If you want me to say, let me open my mouth. If not, let me just give them a hug,
Well, I can speak to that just for a minute, if you don't mind. And that is that most of the time, the people are not going to remember what you said when you go through that receiving line. They're not going to remember. Unless it was hurtful. To be perfectly honest, they're probably not going to remember, because it's the same thing getting repeated. And sometimes those lines are very long.
Yeah.
What is remembered is a card or a phone call or a text. And so I'm not saying don't go to the service, because that totally does matter. But if you have something to speak to them, it might be great to do it, in written form. And then that's something they can keep and refer back to.
That's good. What encouragement would you give someone who is in their grief right now? And like you said, there's no time period. Grief is grief, but they're not moving forward. They're maybe stuck.
Yeah. I would say that, this is going to take some bravery, right? But I think that the best thing that they could do for themselves is to find someone who loves them and let them come alongside, because most of the time, the people that I've seen who are truly stuck are going it alone. And so they need someone who loves them, who can help them, but in a loving way, that doesn't feel like judgment or whatever. And there's not, those are hard people to find sometimes, but they're out there, and they might, just like you said, it might not be the person you would expect. It might be the one that you never expected, that might be able to do that. So I guess maybe that's my best advice as far as that goes. And then stay active stay active, stay involved with the things that you can in your world, whether it's family or friends or church or school or whatever, as much as you can make yourself interact,
That's
because it's good to do that. It's hard, but
right.
it's good to do that.
A lot of my fitness students showed up, but someone brought them to my faith-based fitness class. They didn't just show up by themselves. And what I found, a lot of the women that have showed up throughout the years, not just like throughout all these years, they were hurting, they were grieving, whether, they had lost a parent, their husband, a child, suicide had occurred in the family. And I didn't know that as a fitness instructor. Their friend didn't tell me that. But through the years, I found out and I watched them and how God transformed their hearts. He gave them a purpose to keep moving forward. But what I believe, it wasn't just the fitness class, it was the word of God spoken during the fitness class is
Yes.
what helped them with their grief and their healing. So I just wanted to share that.
I'm glad you did, and that is, but all of that is so very important. And I said, find a buddy that loves you to help you out. You know what? Make sure they love Jesus. That matters more than anything, because you need truth spoken over you and about you and around you, and all of that. And it needs to be with somebody who's really solid and who loves the Lord. And because the thing of it is, my friend Elaine, she's a Bible teacher. She's an amazing Bible teacher. She's one of the most solid, I would say, mature Christians I've ever met. After she lost Emily, she never doubted God. She never got mad at God, but she couldn't find him. And so it happens, that happens to the best of us. And so sometimes we can't even figure out how to get our prayers past the ceiling. And that's when they need us.
Mm-hmm.
You know that story in the Bible about how Moses had to hold his arms up?
Yeah.
And so that the army wouldn't advance. And if his arms dropped, the armies would start coming after him. And his arms got too tired. Do you remember what happened? His brother Aaron and somebody of his came over, found him a rock to sit on, and then one got on either side of him and held up his arms because he was too tired, and held him up the whole rest of the time. That's what builders do. We hold up arms.
Well, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So we need to be builders. Okay, before we get into your next project, where can we purchase your book?
Yeah, it's on Amazon, and that's the best way to do it. And you can just search it by the title, or you can search it by my name. I do have an author page on there. So you can see it, and you can see a couple other projects that I've been involved in as well.
Okay, let's talk about your next project. What is that?
Well, I'm in the middle. I'm in the throes of working on a new book. It's going to be an anthology, which is a collection of stories called Chosen, and I haven't gotten the full title yet, but Chosen For is basically what it is. And it started out by this journey of mine with some chronic health problems, and God showed me that if I truly believe that what he says is true, and I do, that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, that he formed all of my days, he planned all my days for me before I was ever born, and that he has a good plan for my life. That means today, this day is chosen for me.
Mm-hmm.
This medical thing is chosen for me, and I get to decide how to respond. And so that was a huge change in my perspective. And so I started looking around me for other people who had been chosen for hard things and who were sort of aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a lot of author friends, not surprisingly. I've gotten a lot of them to write stories for me. I've written a lot of stories of other people's chosen journeys. I've got one that's about a gal who makes bread and walks it down to the fire station 3 times a week. That's ministry.
Oh, wow.
And if you read about what her motivation is behind that and the things that have happened because of it, it's so cool. And who would think she gets up and bakes bread because she likes to bake bread? But there's a element of being chosen for that. And here's the thing. God didn't just choose us for something. He chose us for a purpose, right? He chose us so that we can reflect him, so that we can love others the way that he does. And so when we're in proper alignment there, we are going to shine. We're going to shine no matter what is happening. And so people will be drawn to us, and we maybe will get to tell them our chosen stories.
Oh, I love that. You know, I always look at it like you, Angie. God has chosen us for his purposes, and the parents he chose, whether you had a good relationship or not, your siblings, whether you had a good relationship or not, people on your path, even the mistakes you made, they all shape and mold you into who God created you to be. And you have a choice to make. You can use it for good. You can stay bitter and resentful. So we choose to use it for the glory of God, and to also walk out our faith in his strength, not our own strength. I think that's real important.
Yes, it is.
You know, because we don't have to do this alone. I mean, just like today when I taught my fitness class, I said, Lord, I don't have the physical strength to teach 2 classes, but you do, and I trust you.
Yes. You know, I have this saying real quick up on my whiteboard that says, "You mind God's business, he'll mind yours."
Oh, I like that.
I have it written big, so I remember.
Be about your father's business. I just wrote about that. Be about your father's business. That is
Perfect. Yeah.
Angie, I'd love to have you come on again, and
I would love that.
with your new project coming up, I feel like we've got a lot in common. It's so easy to listen to you and to speak with you. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And thank you for listening. I'm Theresa Rowe. Everyone have a blessed day. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Shaped by Faith with Theresa Rowe. Remember to visit shapedbyfaith.com to find out more about workouts, the TV show, podcasts, blogs, Shaped by Faith products, and much more.